Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. We'll start in a couple of minutes. Meanwhile, you all can participate in the polls that is there on your screens. Hello, everyone. Am I audible? Can I have a yes or no in the chat box?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Pavan. Yes, so my name is Neha and I'm community manager at Whizlabs, and I'll be moderating this webinar for today. Let me quickly introduce you to our speaker for the day and also all the panelists. So this workshop is on AWS, on Amazon auto scaling. And for today, we have our speaker, Pavan Rao, and he is a certified solutions architect and a cloud professional. And he has an in-depth knowledge in AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud Platform. And right now he's managing the Whizlabs Hands-on Labs platform. So I'm sure you will get to learn a lot from Pavan, and you'll also explore the Whizlabs Hands-on Labs platform today. And for going forward, we will have this chat box where you can mention all your queries, and we will also have Q&A section. So if you come across any queries related to the topic, please feel free to put in the Q&A section. So, and after the theory part is completed, we will give you the labs access so that you can perform live with the speaker. So yes, over to you, Pavan.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you so much, Sneha. Let's start the webinar. So let me share my screen. So I hope everyone able to see my screen. Okay, so you guys can just ping here. So Sneha, are you able to see my screen?
Not yet, Pavan. Can you try again?
Okay, let me share my screen again.
Yes, it's visible now.
It's visible, right?
Yes.
Okay. So hi everyone. So today's webinar, we are going to explore AWS auto scaling. So this is one of the topics which is very important when it comes to maintaining servers, and you would have heard about it a lot. So there are many features in it which will be very helpful. So I wanted to give a demonstration on AWS scaling, AWS auto scaling, understand the theory part, and then do some workshop. So let's go ahead and see. Okay, so myself, Pavan Gumaste, and I am a solutions architect, and I have been developing a labs platform in Whizlabs.com. So here is today's agenda. So we are going to first learn what is AWS auto scaling. Then we are going to understand the different components which are there in AWS auto scaling. Then we are going to learn why we need auto scaling and how it works. There are also a lot of prerequisites for auto scaling, like what are different types of components which you need to understand. So we were going to go through and understand them. There will be different types of auto scaling which you can do. We will try to understand them, how it works, different concepts. Then I'll be giving you a brief platform introduction about our hands-on lab. So in Whizlabs.com, we do provide a lot of hands-on labs. So I'll be introducing you to the platform. And in the same platform itself, we will be doing the live workshop on AWS auto scaling. So everybody who are there today, so everyone will get the access, and along with me, they'll be able to do the lab. Okay, so and after that, we will have a Q&A session, and then there will be a quiz, and some rewards will be given at the later stage based on the quiz. Okay, so let's move. Okay, so let's understand. So before going to AWS auto scaling, we need to first understand what is the concept of auto scaling. Okay, so before I start, I just want to in chat, I just want to understand the participants' level of cloud understanding and AWS understanding. So you can just mention beginner, intermediate, and advanced. You can just mention in the chat so that I know what all I should tell, and how much in depth I should go, and how much I have to hold back. So if you can just mention in the chat whether you are beginner, intermediate, or advanced, so it will help me a lot. So I'll just give 1 minute. I'm just looking at the chat. Okay. Okay, so I'm saying beginner, intermediate. Okay. Okay. So beginner, intermediate. So okay. So beginner to intermediate. So fine. So should be fine. So I think I have understanding of the participants I have. So okay, fine. So let's before going to AWS auto scaling as a service, that service which is provided by AWS, let's try to understand the concept. What exactly is an auto scaling? And from there we will move to AWS auto scaling. Okay, so what is an auto scaling? So auto scaling is a method in a cloud computing in which we dynamically adjust the amount of computational resources in the server farm. So typically it is measured in terms of active servers, and usually in auto scaling, automatically the load will increase or decrease, and based on that the active servers will increase or decrease. So as you can see in this image, whenever a traffic comes from the internet to any website or an app, or a mobile app or a tablet app, so typically it will go through a load balancer. So once it comes to the load balancer, the load will be split to different auto scaling groups. So and then the traffic will be moved to different auto scaling groups, and based on that, those auto scaling groups will be configured. So we will learn what exactly is the auto scaling group and what is a configuration template and everything later. So here what you need to understand is that there is a load balancer here, and that load balancer splits the traffic, and it will give to the different types of server groups. It is a logical groupings which we have, and the traffic will be split so that there will not be like a full load on only one server. Okay, that is the basic concept of load balancer and auto scaling. So here, let's move to the next slide. So here, usually in a cloud computing feature, so organizations usually try to scale up. So why do we go to the auto scaling concept? Why do we go to the cloud? So because organizations need to scale up and down their servers, server capacities based on requirements. So it can be dynamic, it can be static, sometimes it can be scheduled, sometimes you never know when the traffic is going to increase. So dynamically you should be able to increase. Based on our time also, we should be able to increase. So these are the really important features which will be provided in the cloud, and that will help, the auto scaling will help in rendering all the traffic and dividing it and giving the proper availability for all the traffic. So depending on the load on the server, the number of servers, as we discussed, look, it is going to increase or decrease. So basically we are saying fluctuating. So fluctuating traffic will make the auto scaling go up and down. As you can see in this image, auto scaling and load balancers are really related to each other, because load balancer, when the traffic is coming first, it will come to the load balancer, then it is going to split, and then it's coming to the auto scaling. So whenever we are studying about the load auto scaling, we should also understand about elastic load balancer, basically the load balancer. So we will have a proper lab where we are going to say how it is going to be split and how availability zone works. So for now, you understand that there is a load balancer, and there are auto scaling groups for each load balancing end, and from there the traffic is flowing. Okay, so now that we know about the AWS auto scaling concept, now we'll try to understand AWS auto scaling. So in AWS, they provide a service called auto scaling, which does this auto scaling work, and it does in such a manner that it automatically adjusts the capacity. When I'm saying capacity here, it means EC2 instances. So mainly when it comes to AWS, we are only talking in terms of EC2 instances. So AWS auto scaling, we need to understand that we cannot use AWS auto scaling to scale some other servers which are not there in AWS. It is in-house, and it can be done only for the EC2 instances which are there inside the AWS. So yeah, so it helps you ensure that you have a correct number of EC2 instances available to handle the load of your application. So this image will give you the real good example of what exactly is going on in the auto scaling. So whenever we are defining any auto scaling, we will define something called a minimum number of instances we need, the desired capacity we need, and the maximum size. So all these things are typically handled by your infrastructure solutions architect who has designed this infrastructure, and they will sit and understand, okay, this is how much the traffic is coming, and based on that we are going to create this kind of servers, and if the traffic is coming, we will increase it to this, and if the traffic is reduced, then we will reduce the number of instances which are available. Okay, so here we are trying, in this slide we are trying to understand how a typical auto scaling works. So it creates a number of EC2 instances, and we are going to create the minimum number of instances which are required for the auto scaling group, and then we also provide the maximum number of instances which should be made available in case it is required. So these are the parameters which are important when it comes to auto scaling. There is a desired capacity, there is a minimum number of capacity, and the maximum capacity. These three parameters in turn tells you how many instances can be there at a time in a auto scaling group. So okay, so now let's move on to the components of auto scaling. So what are the typical components which comes into picture when we are using the auto scaling? So first one is like a launch configuration. Launch configuration is a instance configuration template that includes like a AMI, an instance type ID, a key pair, a security group, a block, device mapping. These are the typical things which will be there in the launch configurations. And these launch configurations help you in creating the clones of the new servers which we are going to create. So when we are saying multiple instances, multiple EC2 instances will be created, those instances are not like empty instances. They should have some data, they should have some configurations. Whenever the traffic comes, it should be able to render, right? So your application, let's say you have an application called Whizlabs.com. So that Whizlabs.com template is stored in an AMI with the instance type. So all these things will be stored in the launch configurations. When a new instance is getting launched, all these things will taken into picture, and then a new instance will be created. So similar to that, we have something called a launch template. This is very much similar to launch configuration. It's just that in the templates, you can create multiple versions of it. So over the period of time, let's say your launch configurations are changing. So you can create the launch templates of, let's say, previous month, next month. So like that, you can create a multiple versions and keep it. And in case it is needed, you can immediately launch it. Okay, so next is auto scaling groups. So this is something which we talked before, like when I was telling you about auto scaling. So I was referring to the auto scaling groups. So what exactly is an auto scaling? So auto scaling groups is a collection of EC2 instances that are treated as a logical grouping. So it is not like a legacy systems where we used to have large number of servers, and they used to be sit in one server room, and the different servers are segregated. It is not like that. It is a logical group, more of a logical group where you have different EC2 instances grouped together with a certain logic. They'll be given one name, and they will be said, okay, you all these instances come under one group, so that we can apply particular policy to that group. So when a policy is applied to that group, it is applicable to all the instances which are inside the auto scaling group. So usually auto scaling groups also have something called health check replacements and scaling policies. So as I said, the scaling policies are applicable to all the instances inside the EC2, all the instances inside the auto scaling group, and health check will always be running to understand each and every instance's health. So in case something goes wrong, you should be ready to launch new instance. Or based on our scaling policies, if the server load goes up or down, you should be able to launch the instance or terminate the instance. So yeah, so for all these things, we need scaling policies. The main core functionality of auto scaling service is to maintain a steady number of instances. So why do we need this steady number of instances? So whenever you are developing a website, you know what is your minimum number of users who will be there. What is the peak time? For example, let's say you are having an app like a Hotstar or a Netflix or something like that. So those apps, usually in the Hotstar, whenever there is a big live event is going on, let's say there is an IPL match is going on or an NFL match, there is a football match which is going on. So usually the traffic increases at that time. So in general, some people who will be watching movies and things like that, the traffic, on an average, how much traffic will be there. It might be increasing over the period of time, but it is not like there will not be any sudden rise in the sudden spike in the number of users. So at that time, you need the minimum number of instances that should be there. So that will be maintained. And let's say there is a spike. It's a last minute of a football match or a last over of a cricket match. So usually there will be a huge spike in the number of users who will come and watch the game. So at that time, you should be in a position to render everyone a proper output. So tomorrow, let's say it from 1 million to 10 million, number of users increase from 1 million to 10 million, the application should not crash. So those things are typically handled by auto scaling groups. So here, for people who are watching the movies, there will be a minimum number of instances that will be running. Suddenly, when the numbers for users increase, the auto scaling group will kick in, and it will increase the number of instances. So imagine that, like, the number of instances, whenever I am saying the number of instances in this webinar, just imagine that they are the clones of the server. So they are nothing but the clones. They are not different from each other. They are the clones of each other. So it's just that the different users traffic is going through different instances. Okay. So the size of the auto scaling group depends on the number of instances that you set to desired capacity. So as I said, based on the average traffic, we will set the number of desired capacity, and depending on the demand, we will increase or decrease the number of instances which are there. Okay. So next, we have something called a type of scaling. So here, whenever we are trying to see like different types of scalings, in general, we have two types of scalings, that is horizontal scaling and a vertical scaling. So horizontal scaling usually refers to increasing the number of instances you have in a auto scaling group, and vertical scaling refers to increasing the capacity of the instance. So when I'm saying the capacity of the instance, usually it would be the RAM or the CPU power, depending on the requirement. For example, if you're more on the graphic side of if you're working on the application which has more memory intensive or a graphic intensive, you might have to increase that part of the machine. So at that time, vertical auto scaling will come into picture. Horizontal auto scaling, usually it would be that is the typical scaling which we do, and it will come into picture when we are using along with the elastic load balancer. So yeah, so we have to take actions, and we have to set the policies based on our own requirement. So as you can see, vertical scaling has its own one of the drawbacks. You can't say drawbacks, it has its own things which will come into picture whenever we are using it, because it involves more additional power, adding more power to the existing machine. There is an inherent architectural challenges that will come into picture, because there is only one server, and to which we are increasing the capacity over the period of time. What happens is there is no redundant server. So when there is no redundant server, if something happens to the server, there is a chance that the application might go down. And also in the vertical scaling that demands a downtime. So because there is only one server, whenever some configurations are coming up, we need to restart the server. So at that time, it becomes a little bit difficult. So vertical scaling mainly it enhances the performance rather than the availability. Horizontal scaling mainly focuses on the availability. Okay, so this is it's a typical example of how the scaling works with respect to vertical scaling and horizontal scaling. I think this image speaks for itself. When you see in the level 1, you can see there are 3 instances which are there in the horizontal scaling and vertical scaling. In the next time, whenever a spike came up in the vertical scaling, the same servers, their capacity has increased, so they become the bigger servers. But in the horizontal scaling, you can see the number of clones have increased, so that the load bearing capacity of the instances is not increased, but it is divided among the 6 different instances. So this will give you understanding on how the applications works. So these these things configurations depends on the type of application you are working and the type of work you are doing. So both of this matters when you are selecting the type of scaling. There are also applications which involve the combination of these two in certain manner. But yeah, so you have to have a really good understanding of your application before taking up the vertical scaling. In general, we go for the horizontal scaling. Okay, so there is when we are discussing this, this type of scaling is based on how we are scaling. So now the next one is when you are scaling. So the type of scaling based on when the scaling happens. The scaling can happen either on the predictive basis or the scheduled basis. So predictive auto scaling usually it depends on the analytical data, the historical data which we have based on the user trends and based on the predictions which we have written. So all these scripts, based on that, this auto scaling is done. So when it comes to scheduled auto scaling, usually scheduled auto scaling is like, for example, in Amazon, there is a sale on some particular new mobile. So we know that that particular sale is going to happen at 12 o'clock. So we can schedule the scaling so that during that time between 12 to 1, let's say the mobile is going to be sold, then you can just increase the scaling during that time and you can reduce the scaling afterwards. So these two are two different types which will be very helpful. Scheduled scaling will be usually helpful in case we know we can anticipate the traffic. We know that when the traffic is going to increase. So at that time, scheduled scaling becomes easy to manage. In terms of predictive scaling, this one is helpful in terms of when there is an unpredictable traffic is there. So end of the day, we need to scale up and scale down based on the traffic. So these are some of the advantages, you can say benefits of scaling. We have a better fault tolerance because the availability is more. There's a better cost management because even though you are scaling up during the high peak, you are scaling down automatically when there is no traffic. So we should not only think auto scaling in terms of high usage. We should also think from low usage. Let's say, for example, today there is no traffic at all. So at that time, the server load should be reduced. We don't need that many servers to run. So at that time, auto scaling will go and reduce the number of servers, and it is going to save a lot of money for you. Okay, so then we have availability of resources because it is spread over the different availability zones. The availability of resources, the EC2 instances will always be there, and there will not be any chance of application going down. Then there is a reliability of resources and flexibility of resources. So flexibility meaning here you can change from one instance to another instance. You can increase the however number of instances you want. So these things will help you manage the application in a better way. So yeah, so any questions till here? So you guys can ask me if you have any questions, or if I'm going too fast, you guys can tell me. So yeah, I'm just looking at the chat. So you guys can just tell me here if you have any queries, or I'm okay to go further. scale. Let me look at the Q&A. Okay, so Usha Mari says click only, it increases the performance. Yeah, so as I said, it's not just for increasing, it is also there for decreasing. So Srini has asked what will be the use case of vertical scaling when it involves the downtime? Yeah, so as I said, like when if you have only vertical scaling with one server, the downtime is obviously going to be bad. You should make sure that there is another server running when you take down one of the server to make sure that it is upgraded to the required configuration. So okay, so next, any limit to the horizontal EC2 instance? So okay, so limit meaning, so if you are asking about the type of instance or the number of instances, usually no. So as far as I know, for the one of the real-time example which I know is a Hotstar website or app which you guys are using. I think at one point of time when the peak IPL season was going on, they were running around 10,000 EC2 instances at a time. So that is how much capacity it has. So it has more than that. I'm just giving you an example of a company which is using like a 10,000 instances at a time they were using. Okay, fine. So let's move to the next. Okay, so let's move to the next question, next slide. Okay, so now we will try to understand how auto scaling works. So usually we will get a website with a requirement. They will give you the application and they'll say, okay, this is our requirement. This is how much traffic we have, and then we need to configure the auto scaling. So we need to explore the application and create the cloud system based on that. And then once we create it, auto scaling group, it will either add or remove the EC2 instances based on the requirement. We will choose the service which we need, and we will optimize that service based on the metric, and then we scale up or scale down based on the traffic. So that's how it generally works. So this is a typical example like auto scaling. So explore, discover, choose, and optimize, and then optimize, auto scale. Okay, so so whenever we are doing any practically, whenever we are dealing with the auto scaling, these are some of the services which you also should be able to understand before going and configuring any auto scaling instances. So that is a VPC. You should have an understanding of a VPC. What is a VPC? Virtual private cloud, and you should understand what are EC2 instances. You should know what is a security group. You should also know what is a availability zone and elastic load balancers. So I hope you guys know about it. I'll just give a brief on this. So VPC is just a virtual private cloud which is given inside the AWS. This is a private cloud, and it is you'll be able to create a lot of subnets. You will be able to create instances inside it based on your requirement. So you have to usually provide, whenever you are creating a VPC, you have to provide a CIDR, and within that limit you'll be able to create that many number of instances. So next is EC2 instance. So EC2 instance is a typical server. A typical server which has a OS and which has a storage, and usually it will be enabled with either SSH or HTTP ports, so that you can communicate with that instance. Then there is a security group. Security group are typically attached to EC2 instances. These are usually stateful, and they'll whenever you allow any port, usually whenever you are allowing anything, that will be allowed out as well. So let's say you are allowing SSH or HTTP, usually it will be both in and out. So next is availability zones. Availability zones is a broader generic concept of a cloud wherein a cloud provider, for example, AWS, Azure, or a GCP, they have the data centers in different regions. So a region will have a data center, and in that they will divide them into different availability zones. These availability zones make sure that in case of a disaster, in case of fault in any of their data centers, still your application will be running. So that is the main reason for the availability zones. They will divide they will divide the data center into different zones, and in those zones your data will be secure and you will be able to use them. So next, so availability zones are important here because when we are doing one workshop, we will be using the multiple availability zones for showcasing how the load balancer works and how the auto scaling is working. Okay. So next is elastic load balancer. So load balancer is a typical service as you saw here in our one of the first images where it acts as a intermediary between our traffic and our servers, and it divides the traffic into different regions, availability zones based on our configuration. So if you have divided your if you have divided your traffic based on the region, then it will go based on that. If usually before the load balancer, usually there will be a route 53. That route 53 will be again dividing the traffic based on there are many there are many different types of route 53 routings are there. Around 5 to 6 types are there, you guys can say it. So that will again come to the load balancer, then you will go to the server and your request will be rendered. Okay, so yeah, so let's go further. Yeah. Okay, so now what, so before going further, we need to understand like the difference between the auto scaling and the load balancing. Usually whenever a application load balancer auto scaling package works with within the tandem of package. So basically they are working together, they work together to create a good available website. You can deploy an auto scaling group load balancer to improve the availability and performance, and it will also decrease the application latency. So in auto scaling allows a user to set a policy based on the predefined criteria. So you might have set a predefined criteria like maybe my server CPU usage goes beyond certain limit, immediately you launch the new instance. Or maybe you want if when the CPU usage goes down below certain limit, reduce the number of instances you have so that you can save some money, right? So something like that, it will work like that. So load balancers and auto scaling work together, and they will give the better performance and availability. Okay, so yeah, so now next we will move to the workshop here. So let's see if you have any questions till here. So I'll be looking at the Q&A. So what will be the use case of vertical scaling when it involves a downtime? So I think I have already answered this. Only it increases performance, that is answered. Distributes traffic. Yeah, I think you're talking about load balancer. Okay. So are you going to use a launch template or a launch configuration? Let's see. So which one we are going to use in our lab. So let's see. Okay, so shall we move to the lab section? So what I'll do right now is first I will show you our platform. So the labs platform which we have, and I'll give you some details on the advantages of our platform and everything, and then we will go to the workshop. Okay, so this is our Whizlabs platform, and in general, whenever we are working with a lab, usually the cloud environments. Let's say, for example, you want to learn something in the cloud. Usually, one of the questions when you are going to a job, whenever you're doing a certification, how do I get the practical experience? So that is the first question you ask yourself, how do I get the practical experience? So the labs will come into picture at the time. So cloud is so big, it is very difficult to understand which one you have to focus on, right? So our hands-on labs, we typically divide them into different things, a small part, so that you guys will be able to understand each and everything properly. We provide them details, each and everything which is required, and also we provide something called validation. So the validation will help you make sure that you have done the things properly. Okay, and also there is no cost for using our hands-on lab. So it is completely You don't have to give your credit card or anything like that. So directly you can use our hands-on labs platform, and it will directly create you IAM user, and you will be able to access the cloud and start with the learning. Okay. So yeah, so as I explained, so there are no hassles in setting up your cloud environment, no cost involved. It is a risk-free, and you can practice as much as you want. You can validate, and it is immediate. Immediately you can go and start a cloud environment, and you can start working on it. Okay, so let's go and see how it looks. Okay, so let me open. I'm just going to go at whizlabs.com. Okay, so this is our website. So let me go to any of our courses. So if you go to our courses, you will be seeing the practice test, the video courses, and the labs, as you can see. So we have added a large number of labs depending on the syllabus also. So there are 71 labs for Solutions Architect Associate. As you can see, we have provided 71 labs. All you need to do is go and click on Start Lab. Okay. So if you go and click on Start Lab, so this is the platform which has opened up. So here you can see we have provided the lab details, which will explain you what exactly you are going to do. And we are providing you the time, how much time it is needed to complete this lab, and we are telling you the region in which you have to do. And then there is details on the services which you are going to use. Let's say in this particular lab, we are talking about EC2 instance. So we are going to give the understanding, like a definition and details which you need to understand before going and running the lab. You don't have to go around and see what is it before starting the lab. You can learn what it is here itself. And also we have provided the architecture diagram, which clearly tells you what exactly is going on. It's a graphical representation which will be very helpful in understanding what exactly is going on. So here you can see we are going to create an EC2 instance that is inside a public subnet, which is inside a VPC, and that is accessed by a external user through internet, right? So that is what we are trying to do in this as a part of this lab. This image clearly explains what exactly we are trying to do. So once that is done, we are providing the actual task which we are doing. You have to launch the environment, create the EC2 instance, SSH into it, install Apache server, create a publish one HTML page, and then validate your lab. So let's just start the lab and see how it works. Okay, so it will take around 10 to 15 seconds usually to spin up a new cloud environment for you guys. So as you can see, so you got the IAM username and password. You also have access key and secret access key in case you want to do a AWS CLI commands. You want to run in your own system with the AWS CLI commands. That also you can do with this CLI commands with this access key and secret key. So I'm going to click on Open Console. So when you click on Open Console, it is going to give you a new account. Along with that, it is giving you the username. I think I have some preloaded things. I'll just remove that and put the one which is given here. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to put this here. I'm just going to click on sign in. So that is it. So in 10-15 seconds, your cloud environment got set up and you'll be able to use it. So now only thing you have to do is you just have to scroll down and follow all the steps which are provided here and just run it. Okay, so you go to the EC2 instance and we are saying create a EC2 instance, SSH into it. So there are many different aspects of the lab are there. So you have to follow it and complete it. So once everything is completed, you can come here and there is this validate button which you can see. If you click on it, so right now if you click on it, it will give failed. So failed because you have not we have not completed what is needed for this lab, right? We should have created a EC2 instance and did all these things. We did not do that. So that's why it is giving me failed. So in general, when you complete the lab and come and click on validate, it will automatically, if you have done the things properly, then it will tell you have completed successfully. So probably you'll be able to see one screenshot here. You can see here, right? So it is giving success. So if you have done the things properly, it will give you a success message. Okay, that is our typical lab environment which we have. We have for AWS, we have for Azure, we have for GCP. So yeah, so there are many environments are there. Easily you can launch and run on it. So let me end this. So any questions on this platform? If you guys have any questions, you can ask me. So let me go to the Q&A and see. So I think Q&A is clear. So let me see the chat. Okay, so today's labs. Okay, fine. So let me go here to my PPT again. So that's my PPT. Okay, so now that you know about our platform, let's do a workshop. So I'll be giving you this link. So everybody should be able to should be able to access this. So let me give you this link.
Pavan, I'm sharing it in the chat box.
Okay, fine. So Sneha is sharing in the chat box. You guys can check it. Okay, so if you have not logged in, probably it will not allow you to start. You have to sign up if you are not a Whizlabs user. If you are a Whizlabs user, just sign in into your account and just go to that link. You should be able to see this lab, Amazon Autoscaling Challenge with a button free here. Okay, so I hope everybody got the access.
If you are able to access, please type a yes in the chat box so we know that there are no problems with the lab access. Okay.
So Banu has asked like any one example of real-time use case how to fix the issue. Okay, fine. So that is that I will show you as part of this. So that is the workshop which we are going to do. So somebody is asking where is the link. Okay. Okay, so do not start the lab if you got the access. So I will let you know because it has a duration and we have to complete it within the given duration. So just keep it open. Let's understand what we are trying to do here, and then we can move further. Okay, so I can see that everybody got the access. Okay, so Banu's question will be answered as a part of the workshop. So he has asked, is there a real-time use case which in the real-time environment using the auto scaling, is there anything we can fix? So that is what we are going to do as a part of the workshop. Okay, so here instead of a guide, what I have given is a challenge. Okay, so guide usually gives you the detailed steps which you saw here. So in general, when you are seeing this is a guided lab, okay, where we are completely guiding you to do all the things, whatever is needed. Each and every step is provided here. Okay, and this is a workshop. In the workshop, I have selected something called a challenge. Challenge is where we are going to tell you what is needed. It's like a client. A client is given you the requirement like this, and we have to create it. Okay, so this is like a client environment. So let's understand this challenge before this is the workshop which we are going to do. So let's clearly understand the workshop before moving further. Okay, so here in the prerequisites, as I mentioned here, you need to have a good knowledge on EC2. At least you should be able to understand what is an EC2 and what is its status, and so those kind of basic knowledge, even if you have that, would be okay. You need to have understanding on auto scaling. You need to understand what is a load balancing. So you should have an internet connection and a browser to run the workshop. Okay, so If you are using the office network, there is a possibility that in your company they would have put a firewall or something. Probably it may not start. So in that case, you let us know. Okay, so usually that happens to some of the companies where they're using VPN and they're using the internal network, so they will not allow outside traffic. So at that time, either you have to use your own laptop, or you have to turn off all the firewall and use the lab. Okay, so this challenge needs to be completed in US East 1 region, and you have 1.5 hours, 90 minutes to complete this. So after completing the challenge, we have to click on the validate button, which I showed you here. So the validate button, which will come after starting the lab. And if you have completed the challenge successfully, you should get the success message. If not, it will give you the failed, and you should be able to go and edit it and make it success. Okay, so let's let's try to understand. Okay, what is the challenge? Okay, here the requirement is your company is considering migrating a web application from an on-site server to Amazon EC2. So they have an on-site server, they want to move to EC2. You have been tasked with setting up a example of an infrastructure for hosting a web application and testing the scaling activity with the auto scaling group policy. So before moving to the cloud, the Amazon EC2, they want to understand how it works. They are not familiar with this Amazon, and they want to understand this auto scaling, how it works. So they want you to set up a infrastructure and show them the use case, so that they'll be comfortable moving to the Amazon cloud. Okay, so following the instructor in the lab challenge, you will be using Amazon Management Console. So you will go to Amazon Management Console and provision the infrastructure to fulfill the company's requirement. So let's understand all the requirements. So we will do all these things one by one. So let's read them out first to understand what is needed, then we will start doing it. Okay, so first you need to create a security group. So we will be creating a security group, and that security group should have inbound rules of 80 and 22. So usually that is HTTP and SSH. Then we will be creating a ELB target group, and with the default VPC, which is already provided in the account. And we will use the HTTP port which we have created here. And for now, we will not be creating any register. We will not register any targets. That we will do later. Create the application load balancer. We will create the internet-facing application load balancer in 2 different availability zones. The security group which we have created here, we are going to use it. And then we are going to listen to port number 80. Okay, so then after all this is done, then we are going to create a template. So somebody asked me whether you are going to use a launch template or a launch configuration. So we are going to use a launch template, auto scaling template, to create a Amazon EC2 machine with a T2 micro. This is just for the workshop purpose, so I don't want to select some bigger instance because it is going to cost me. So I'm going to create a T2 micro. I'm just going to create a key pair for SSH purpose and select the security group which you have created, and then use the user data. So user data, if you scroll down, it is provided here. So what is the use of this user data? So whenever if you have launched EC2 instance, usually in the EC2 instance creation panel, there will be a user data option where you will be putting whatever you want to run whenever you are creating a EC2 instance. You want to do something, you don't want to SSH and do all these things. You want this to be there when the EC2 instance itself is created. So those things we will put it in the user data. So basically we are saying update, we are going to update and just install the HTTPD and one HTML, simple HTML, public facing HTML page, and we are starting the HTTPD with Apache server. We are just starting. Okay. So next is we are going to create a auto scaling group. So this is where our actual auto scaling will begin, where we are going to put the minimum desired maximum capacity, and we are going to select the scaling policy with the CPU utilization. Target value, basically we are going to say this is just for the testing purpose. So I'm going to say if the CPU utilization crosses 20, you should increase one instance. If the in the 60 seconds. Okay. So then that will be there in the, so one of the instances in one of these regions will be stressed to create the new instance. Okay, so how we are going to do that? We are going to install something called a stress test. So this is this is one of the tools, Linux tools, which is provided, and using this tool we are going to stress the EC2 instance so that the CPU utilization increases manually. We will increase manually the CPU utilization, and we are going to show how the auto scaling is working. Okay, so let's start the lab. Okay, so I'm going to click on Start Lab. So everybody can click on Start Lab. Okay, so I hope for everyone the lab has been started. So just ping here. So you can ping here if your lab is started successfully. If not started, you can ping here. If you already are running one more lab, you will not be able to start the lab. So if you already have another lab running, you end that and then you start this lab. Okay. Okay. So my lab is started. So others can just ping here. If somebody is facing an issue, they can ping here. If already started without any issue, they can just mention the lab started. Okay. Fine. So let me go to the console. So I am going to the console and I am going to log in just like what I did. I am just going and putting my username here. I'm going to put the password here and I'm just clicking on sign in. Okay. So now first thing. So what is the first task they have asked here to do? Create a security group. So where is the security group typically located? So can someone tell me where is the security group? So if I type security group here, will it come? So see, security group is not coming. So where is the security group? So it's in the VPC, right? So we'll go to the VPC. So on the left panel, somewhere security group will be there. So just go to the security groups. My security group. Let me just search it. Okay, security group. So I'm just clicking on it and I'll click on create security group. Okay. So once I create, here you can just give any name, just remember the name. So I'm just going to give auto scaling, or what is my name, webinar. So I'll just give, so what should I give? I'll just give my name. Okay, Pavan security group. Okay, so I'm just going to say, so what is that they are looking for? So let's go and see. So they are looking for HTTP and SSH traffic. Okay, from any IP address. So I'm just going to say HTTP and SSH traffic. So we have this default VPC which is already there. So let's go and see, just to make sure that we have one VPC and the same VPC we are using. Okay, let's click on this VPC. And also guys, just make sure that you are in Northern Virginia region. If you are not in that, probably the lab will not work, because that is how it has been restricted. You should be in Northern Virginia region in order for all these things to work. Okay, so we are having a default VPC ending with a D0. So that is what is available here. So I'm going to add the inbound traffic here. So that is the HTTP, and that is any traffic that is 0000/0. Okay, the same similarly I'm going to add for SSH also. Okay, that's it. So as okay, so since this is done, I'm just going to click on create security group. Okay, so nothing else is needed as part of security group. So our security group is done. Okay, next let's go to ELB. Okay, so where is our ELB is located? So ELB is located usually in EC2 page. So let's go to the EC2 page. Okay, so once you are in EC2 page, so where should we go? We should go to target group. So where is my target group? So let's see, where is my target group? So here is the target group under load balancing. Okay, so what do we need to do here? So we have to use the instance type. We have to use the default VPC and use the HTTP port 80. Okay, so let's go here and we'll click on create target group. We are selecting the instances as they mentioned here, and we are going to use the default VPC, which is already there, port 8080. So we have to give some name for this. I'll just give Pavan target group. So this is a target group. I'm just giving the name. Okay, so everything else, so no other changes here. Do not register anything, just leave other options, and I'm just clicking on next. So I'm not doing anything else here. I'm just clicking on create target group. Okay, so now let's move to the application load balancer. Okay, so let's go to application load balancer. So there is a, so what is it? So we have to create a application load balancer, right? So I'm going to the load balancers. That is the third task, right? So task number 3, I have to create the application load balancer. So create the load balancer. You want to create the application load balancer. There are different types of load balancers are there, network and gateway load balancers. They are used in different requirements. Based on different requirements, we use them. Load balancer, it is internet facing, it is IPv4. So here it is using the default VPC, that is the only VPC I have. And here what we are saying, we have to use it, we have to select US East 1A and 1B. Okay, so I'm selecting US East 1A and 1B. Okay, so remember that my US East 1A is not your US East 1A. So they are all random, but for our own account, it would remain the same. But whenever, if my 1A doesn't mean your 1A. Okay, so that you have to remember. Okay, so use the created security group. So what I'll do is I'll remove this default, and this is the one which I have created, right? So I'm going to use this. So Pavan security group. Okay, so I am going to select the target group we just created. Okay, so now let's see what else is there. So application load balancer, HTTP port, traffic, route traffic to your target group. So I have selected my target group. Leave everything else as default. So I'm not changing anything else here. So yeah, you can see the summary here, what all things are done here. This is internet facing, this is my security group, this is the VPC to availability zones I have selected, and the port 80. Okay, so I'm just going to click on create load balancer. Okay, so let's click on view. So this is our load balancer. It's getting provisioned. Okay, it will be provisioned soon. So take some 5-10 seconds to create. So let me go and see the next what we have to do. So we are going to create one launch template. Okay, so as we discussed in our theory part, like launch template is something which defines an EC2 instance, and that EC2 instance configurations are all mentioned in the template. So let's go and see. Okay, so let me go to the templates, launch templates. So in the EC2 page itself, you will have a launch templates. In that, you can click on create launch template, and you have to name it. Let me use the name Pavan launch template. Okay, so I am going to say web server for my app. I'm just going to say web server. Okay, so what else they want here? They want me to select Amazon Linux 2 AMI, and there's a T2 micro and a new key pair, right? So I'm going to scroll down and see. Okay, Amazon machine we need to select. So let's select our machine. So here you can see there are a number of Amazon Linux 2 AMI machines are there. So what is that they are telling? I have to select the Amazon Linux to AMI 64-bit x86, right? Now to make sure that you are selecting the right one. Okay, you can see 64-bit x86. I'm selecting this one. And I'm selecting the latest 5.10. This is a LTS 5.10. 4.14 also the similar thing is there. I'm selecting the 5.10 64-bit x86. Okay, so then the instance type. So as a part of requirement, it is T2 micro. So let's select the T2 micro. Okay, key pair. So since this is the new account which you have not used before, you can click on create a pair. I am a key pair. I'm just going to say auto scale. Okay, so or I'll just name auto. I'll just give a name auto. Okay, so it is going to create a PEM or a PPK file. Okay, so if you are using the Windows system, usually the PEM key should work. If you are using the, if you are using the Mac system, PEM key should work. If you're using the Mac system where you are using the PuTTY, usually it works with the PPK. Okay, so you can select that based on your own system. Let me click on create. So it should allow me to download the key. So I am just going to click on save here. So it is going to be saved in my webinar folder. So in the security group, I'm going to again select my security group which I have created. There might be other security groups which will be available, so you don't have to worry about that. Just select the one which you have, which you are going to use in this. Okay, so now we have to enter the user data. So if you just scroll down here, so in the resources section, we have given this user data. So there's a copy button you can see. If you just click on it, you will be able to copy and just copy that, come down, click on advanced details. If you scroll down completely, then there is a user data info and I'm just pasting it here. Okay, what is this user data doing? It is just installing HTTPD and it is creating a index.html page and it is just going to put this host name. So basically it is going to display the IP address. Why do we need that? Because whenever you are creating auto scaling, you will be creating multiple instances, correct? You might put desired as 10. You might be putting, how do I differentiate between the two different instances? So this is how I'm going to differentiate. This is for the testing purpose. So since the IP address of all the instances will be different, so I'm just putting the host name so that I'll be able to differentiate the traffic based on the IP address. I'll be able to tell, okay, the traffic is going to that instance, traffic is going to this instance. Okay, so okay, so I think we are done here. So let's scroll down and click on create. So launch template is created successfully. So you should be able to see it here. Now let's go to auto scaling group. So this is the main part where we are going to create the auto scaling group. Once the auto scaling group is created, you will be able to see the instances. So here, as you can see, we are not creating any instances ourselves. Okay, so we are creating the auto scaling group, and auto scaling group itself is going to take care of creating the EC2 instances. Okay, so I'm going to click on create EC2 instance. I am in create auto scaling group. I'm going to say Pavan auto scaling group. Okay, so launch template I'm going to select. So if you're seeing the launch template here, the launch template which you have created for this purpose, you can select that. You can see all the details which will come here. So next, click on. So sometimes you may not get launch template here. If you are not getting, you have to, there is an option to switch to launch template from launch configuration. You click on it, come to launch template option, and then you select the launch template. By default, if you are seeing launch configurations, come to launch template and then select this. Okay, so now once that is done, let's go to the next page. And here we have by default the default VPC selected, and as you remember, we selected 1A and 1B, right? These are the two availability zones which we have created. So I'm selecting those two, and I'm not going to override anything else because we have already created the template. Okay, I'm clicking on next. So what else is there here? So I have to set a minimum, desired, and max capacity. Okay, so I'm going to say attach existing load balancer, so which we have created. So this is the target group, right? So I'm going to attach the target group. Once that is done, so what I have to do, I have to scroll down and see, okay, health check, this is all fine. So then I'm going to the next. So here you can see the desired capacity. So for this requirement, I'm going to create a 2 is my desired capacity. 2 is the minimum number of EC2 instances which I want, and 3 is the maximum. In case the traffic spikes, I want it to go to 3. When the traffic comes back, I want minimum that needs to be maintained should be 2. So by default, when the auto scaling group is launched, it will launch 2. I want always there should be 2 instances, and the maximum it can go when the traffic increases is 3. So you can ask a question, why can't we put 100 here? Why can't we put 100 maximum? Because whenever the traffic increases, it will keep on increasing. This depends on how much you are willing to spend. Okay, you can't just put 100 or 1,000, it will keep on increasing, and that at the end of the month you will get a $10,000, $20,000 bill. So who is responsible for that? So you should be very careful when you are giving all these things. So you should always give the one which you need. So you should always keep it's like a trade-off which you want to do. So depending on your requirement, you should be able to configure it properly. Okay, so now, so let's target. So what are we going to target? Let's put the scaling policies which we are talking about. We are going to say, so when the average CPU utilization goes beyond, let's say 20, usually it is done for the 50. Okay, no, 80. Usually when the traffic goes beyond 80, you usually, whenever any website is not loading very slowly, so that typically happens when the server load goes beyond 80 or something like that. The server takes more time to respond back. So usually what I am saying is, if it goes beyond 80, you are going to create another instance. So for just for this workshop purpose, I'm going to put it as 20, because in our EC2 instance, there is no traffic at all. We are not going to get any traffic. We are the one who are accessing it. So I'm just going to put 20 and say, if it goes beyond 20, right now, when we are launching it, it will be 0 because no traffic is coming up. So we will try to hit it and see, okay, if it goes beyond 20, let's launch a new instance. Okay, so let's click on next. You can put a target as 20 with average CPU utilization and 60 seconds. Okay, so these are the extra options which you have. So you can create a SNS topic. You will, if you're subscribed to it, you will get a mail also whenever it is getting triggered. So I'm just going to name like a server or something. Okay, so I'm going to just tag it for deleting purpose for later. So this is just optional thing. Okay, so now everything is ready, right? So just scroll down and see if everything is ready, then we can just launch it. So I hope everyone has done the configurations and ready to launch. Hello? Yeah. So, okay, fine, cool. So let's create the auto scaling group. Okay. So once the auto scaling group is launched, okay. So now that the auto scale desired capacity is 2. So now let's go to instances. So automatically there should be, so here you can see 2 desired instance, 2 minimum, 3 maximum, that too in these 2 availability zones, right? So let's go and see. You can see 2 instances got launched, right? So if I just select this one, usually there should be one in 1B, one in 1A. So because we have the load balancer, we have the auto scaling. One instance is launched in that, one instance is launched in this. This is to maintain the traffic. Okay. Now remember that we have already used user data to launch the instances. So obviously there will be URL. There is always a public URL which will be already there, and you will be able to access it. Okay, so let's see. So let's see where it is. So okay, let's go to our load balancer. So now Now that this is done, so we are going to test using the ELB load balancers. Okay, so let's go to the load balancers now. Okay, so till here everybody is clear, right? So we have two instances with T2 micro, and these two instances are running properly. Now we are going to go to the load balancers, and in the load balancers, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the DNS. So where is my, okay, so let me just refresh this page. Okay, so I got my load balancer. So let's see. I'm going to copy the DNS name and I'm going to paste it here. Okay, so what happens is a DNS usually you can see hello world from IP address it's to internal. So from where this message is coming? This message is coming from this user data. Hello world from IP address from this public page. Okay, so this is at the index page which is deployed on HTTP. I am asking, so which IP address are you? Okay, it is saying that my IP address is 172.31.31.149. So let's go to our instances. Where is our instance? So let's go to the instances and see which instance it is. The traffic is going to which instance. So there are two servers, right? So let's select the instance, and I should be able to see here that is 31 and 31. So probably this one. Unselect this. So this is the server 172.31.31.149. So that is the IP address which you are seeing. That means the traffic is going to this instance. Correct. So let's hit it multiple times and see if the load balancer is going to shift the traffic. Let's assume that multiple people are hitting the website. So let's hit it multiple times. So still you are saying it is going to this instance only. You refresh it. You see now, if so for some people it might happen after 5-6 refresh. Some people it might happen for after 10. So you just keep on refreshing it. Usually the IP address will change after some time. Okay, that means load balancer is doing its job and diverting the traffic to two different servers based on the traffic. Okay, we have two different. So this one, if I go and see, the IP address of this is 172.31.47.166, right? So now that we know that load balancer, everything is working fine. So now our job is to stress the EC2 instance so that the auto scaling triggers the new instance. Okay, so let's go and stress the instance. So for this, what you can do is either you can do from SSH, or let's assume that we are going to do it for one of the servers. Okay, we have to stress one of the servers so that in that region another instance will come. Okay, I'm going to select this one and I'm just going to click on connect. And here there are multiple options are there. There is a SSH client is there. The key, if you remember, you have downloaded one PEM or PP key. Using that you can do, or you can do it from Instance Connect, which is a new service which is provided by AWS. So you can just click on connect. If you want to do it from SSH, you can do it from SSH. Both should work fine. Okay. So I am, so as you can see, we have already logged into this. So now let's install this software, which is going to actually artificially increase the CPU utilization. We are artificially stressing the server so that it will go beyond the 20 average CPU utilization. Okay, so now this is installed. So this one, the install stress is there, right? So once you install the Amazon Linux Extra, so then you can install this stress software. So you can just go and install the stress software. Once the stress software is installed, okay, so let's not stress it immediately. So once the stress is installed, let's do one thing. Let's go to our auto scaling groups. Okay, so you can go to the auto scaling group, open it, and here So here you can go inside the auto scaling group which you have created, and you can click on activity. Okay, so you can see if there is any new something happens, you will be able to see a new entry here. Okay, so right now the two instances are launched. If you go to the monitoring and go to EC2 inside the monitoring, you'll be able to see the CPU utilization here. So right now CPU utilization, the first graph you can see it is in 0. A little bit of traffic is there. Traffic means I have SSH into it. Other than that, not much. You can see it is only 8.47. So we have to make this go beyond 20. Then only another instance will be launched. So right now, only 2 instances are there. Okay, so let's do that using our stress tool. So how do we do that? So let's go here and just run this command. Okay, so what we are going to do is I'm going to say stress my CPU for 300 seconds. Okay, so that is what I am telling the server. So it is going to artificially stress my server. Okay, the stress has started. Okay, so now once the stress is started, it will take some time. Okay, so because health check has to run and understand what is going on. So let's go to this and refresh and see what is going on here. So it will take some time to refresh. Usually it will be around 1 minute or 2 minutes. So let's just wait till that happens. Okay, so till then I'll just check the chat to see if you guys have any question. Okay, so fine. So Tejas is asking, can you please show the creating a next version as well and show it how it rolls out? Yeah, so Tejas, I'll be probably sharing that you on the mail. Okay, so I'll get your mail and I'll share to you because again, it is a time-taking process, so we have a limited time. So I'll be sharing that details with you. Okay, for sure, I'll share that details with you. So let's see if I have any other chats. Okay, so should be fine. So so anybody so if anybody reached the CPU utilization, see it is increasing now it is at 11. Anybody can see their CPU utilization gone beyond 20. If it has gone beyond 20, you can go to your EC2 screen. You can go to your EC2 screen and see that the another instance has spun up. Okay. So has anyone's CPU gone beyond 20? So let's check this, what is going on. It is still your stress is going on. So it will take some time. Let's give it some time. Okay, fine. So let me answer some questions till then. I am unable to connect to any of the EC2 instances. I am in office. That might be the reason. Maybe, yeah. So there might be a chance that some firewalls will be blocking that. You can SSH using the key which you have downloaded, either using a PuTTY or a terminal in terms of Mac. Like if I'm closing the GitHub repo in my user data and running the server, and if I commit the new changes in GitHub, I want to roll out a new version. How can I do that? So Tejas, what you are asking is a CI/CD process that is directly not possible in the user data. For that, you have to set up something called a CI/CD process through code commit and code deploy and code pipeline. Then only you will be able to do these things. Committing whenever the code is committed, automatically it should trigger the auto scaling. It should deploy using the user data. That can be done, but you have to set up through the code commit, code deploy, and code pipeline. Okay. Has anybody reached 20 CPU utilization? Can ping here if anybody has reached. Okay, let me do one thing. I'll close this and stress again. I'll just connect again. Okay, so Usha has already reached. So Usha, you can go and see if the EC2 instance has been created. Okay, so as you can see, for Usha, another instance is created. So let's wait for some more time. So usually it depends on the cloud watch. The cloud watch is going to get the data, and that cloud watch is in turn going to spin up the new instance. So let's go and see in auto scaling group if we have any activity. So let's go and see here. Okay, so let's go to the activity. Okay, so okay, I think everyone's activity is reaching. Only mine is not reaching. So I can see in the chat that somebody's reached 40. Someone's instance has already been created. So it also depends on I mean, it is very random. Like for some people, it depends on the account which they got. Sometimes it creates a little bit early, sometimes it creates a little bit late, depending on the CloudWatch metric. So let's just keep refreshing so that we will know. So let me, okay, it has successfully run. So, okay, let me stress it back again. So let me run it in multiple places so that it might do faster. Okay, just give me a second. It should do its job right away. This is the only waiting part here. So everything else is faster. So once this is done, so we will clear. So if people who have completed, they can just click on validate. If your instance is already reached, if you click on validate, you should be able to see the success, right? So that means you have done the challenge successfully. If you are failing somewhere, something issue is there. Okay, so let's see. I hope I'll be able to reach 20 soon. Okay, mine is reached 97 now. So hopefully it should have launched a new instance by now. Yeah, so as you can see, so you can see we have stressed this instance which was in 1B, right? The instance which was there in availability zone 1B, we have stressed it. So it launched a 1B new instance in the 1B itself. So that is how typically the auto scaling group works, wherein it will look where exactly the systems is going down and it will launch the instance there only. In case we have stressed this one, it would have launched a new instance in this one. So this is how the auto scaling works in general. Okay, so if you click on validate, so what is the problem here? Okay, so I have stressed it back multiple times, probably that is the reason. So let's see. So So others who have validated, they can just put it here if they have validated. So let me see here what has happened to my auto scaling group. Desired capacity is 2. So details are 2. So let me click on this and come back here and click on validate again. Usually there will be a delay of some sorts. So where exactly it is going bad? So let's see. So select minimum 2, desired 2. So this is failing. So saying desired 2 instances were not there. Probably that has happened because I think this was in the running state. So probably it will take some time for it to understand the state it has reached. So here it is saying initializing. Let's wait till that is completed. Then it probably it should work. So let's go to our auto scaling group and then go to our activity and see. Yeah, so you can see it has done its job. So should be able to work. So probably it is a delay. Okay, so usually there will be some delay. So what happens is sometimes it will take some time. Again, if you leave for another 2-3 minutes, probably this is going to work. So you guys can just ping here if you are able to validate successfully. So anybody who has validated successfully, they can put it in the chat here. Okay, so let's go. So I hope you guys were able to understand and do the workshop properly. So any queries, any issues, you can put it here. So I'll be checking it. I'll be waiting for some more time to understand. Okay, some people are getting validation. So validation, same issue people are getting. Okay. Okay, fine. So fine. So let's wait for some time. What happens is probably when we are stressing, let's go here. Let's go here. So let's go here. Stress. Let's end the stress, and then if you go here, once the stress is ended, it will come back. So let's go to monitoring and EC2 instance. Hopefully the CPU should come down. Once the CPU is come down, you can click on validate and see if it is working. So we have to complete everything. So what I did is, in the middle of the stress itself, I was clicking on validate. So that is why it was failing. So let it come down, and it should have a desired minimum as 2, desired as 2, and maximum as 3. Right now, what we had was minimum. We had 3 instances which were running. Desired is 2, that is fine, but we had 3 instances running. So since 3 instances were running, so it was throwing a failed error, saying that, so you wanted this configuration, you stressed it out, it should come back to its previous positions once the stress is done. So then only you have to validate. So it is checking once everything is done. So let's go and see if the stress is reduced back to below 20. So once it is below 20, you should be easily able to validate it. Okay. So probably it is still above. Yeah. So it is still above it. So once it goes below 20, you guys can validate it. It should automatically validate successfully. It will look something like. So it will be something like this only, but it will say the success. And the only thing that is failing as of now, that is this one. Once one instance is terminated, automatically it will get terminated once the traffic goes below 20%. You should be able to validate it. Okay. So any queries, guys? How to reduce stress? You just have to exit whatever the command which you are running. You just have to press Ctrl Z. It will reduce after some time. It will take some 4-5 minutes, but it will reduce. Okay, don't worry about it. the lab will you still have 50 minutes. So it will be reduced after 4-5 minutes. So then if you click on it, you should be able to validate it. So reducing stress is just exiting from the stress command which you have run. You can either close your terminal or exit by pressing Control Z. You should be able to do it. Okay. So let's go to our PPT and see what we have done. So this is what we have done. So we had EC2 instances in 2 different availability zones. We had the load balancer, and we had the CloudWatch, which was monitoring the CPU utilization, and we were getting the HTTP traffic. Correct. So when we put it on stress, which is artificially inducing the CPU utilization above 20%, then immediately it's all like in one of the availability zone, one instance is going beyond the scaling policy which we have put, which is 20%. And that is why it created another instance inside that. Okay, so once another instance is created, automatically the traffic should start reducing, because again the stress will start reducing. The traffic will start distributing between those 3 instances. So ideally speaking, it should come back after the stress is down. So since here we are using the stress command, you will not be getting the traffic inside the server itself. You have to go and reduce the stress. Okay, reducing means you have to exit the command. Okay, so I hope that is clear. Okay, so let me go through some Q&A. Okay, if I am cloning a bit of, I think so in pipeline, I just need to do an instance refresh on GitHub trigger. See, there are many stages, so there are many ways to do it. It is there are a number of ways to do this, the same thing. You can do it through Lambda, you can do it through API gateway. There are many triggers are there. You can do it through SNS, which is going to trigger the code commit. So it depends. You want it to be done through certain things. So which is that point, how you have to do it. So that you have to decide based on your requirement. There are many ways to do that. Okay. So terminal, yes, terminal, you can either press Control Z to exit the command, or you can close the terminal, which both are also fine. So let me go and see if instance is terminated now. It's still running, probably the stress is not yet reduced. Once it is reduced, automatically it should come down. So usually there is a delay in these things. So that is also one of the things which you should remember. So this is one of the questions which I asked. There was a live event which was going on in for Hotstar. The one of the technology architect who was giving the who was giving us the inside architecture view of Hotstar, how they were using auto scaling. At that time, we did ask like what is the what happens if there is this kind of delays. Let's say you want 100 instances and a match is going on. It's a last minute or something like that. If people, if this takes, let's say 2 minutes or 5 minutes, and within that 5 minutes the match is over, then what's the point of auto scaling? So this is one of the questions which I asked. So for that, what they are doing is they are using something called there is a pre-warm instances. So they do something called a pre-warm. Pre-warm is something where they keep the instances ready and put it inside the auto scaling whenever it is needed. So it's a little bit advanced concept compared to that. They are going to use the auto scaling. They do something called a pre-warming. So pre-warming keeps your instances ready, and those instances will be immediately put and they'll be ready to use. So in those kind of situations, this kind of issues will not occur because time is very much of essence, where the application should work within that time, because the live match is going on, right? So so these things do not occur in general whenever they are doing this, because they take many other measures. So this is just a typical example for a POC which we were doing. Okay, so let's see. So it will take some time. So Not an issue. So you guys can still have time. So you guys can check on that. So meanwhile, we can move to the next thing. So here are some more examples which we have with respect to auto scaling. So we have different labs which are available in our the platform, which you can go through, understand, and do these things on your own. That has all the detailed steps. These are not like a challenges. These are the guided labs where you will get all the details which you are looking for, and you will be able to perform them with step-by-step details with screenshots. All these things will be available. So let me just show you one of them. So let me go and open this. So here you can see create a configure EC2 instance with launch template. So this is something which you have done, right? So here you can see the detailed steps are given here. You can follow these things and you will be able to perform it. So right now I was doing it as a challenge. You will be able to do it as a guided lab. So each and everything will be provided here and you'll be able to do it. So this is really good. You will be able to understand. So as you can see, once you validate, you'll be able to get success. So once you have, so advantage of this validate is that you will be able to learn that, okay, what you have done is correct. Okay. So I think I have already passed the time which is given to me. So let's move further. So yeah, we do have 300 plus labs in our platform. You guys can go and check it out. These are some of the upcoming labs which we have: Kubernetes, Python, Terraform labs. So Q&A, yeah. So you guys can ask me some questions. So Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, you can ask me immediately, or if all the questions are answered, we can move to the next one. So quiz. So we will have a small quiz here. So Sneha, you can take over from here.
Yes, sure. Thanks, Pavan. I think it was a great session, and I'm sure the attendees got a good experience of the hands-on labs at Whizlabs. So moving forward, Pavan, can you go to the next slide, please?
Okay.
Yes. So for this quiz, we will have 5 questions and 5 winners. And as winners, you will be allowed to have access to your choice of either a practice test or a video course from Whizlabs. So if you, as Pavan mentioned, if you get any of video course or practice test from Whizlabs, you get the lab's access also for free. Like for this particular lab that you got during this workshop was a free one. But other than that, you need to purchase a course or a practice test series. So yes, the 5 winners will get access to that. Other than that, we have some special discount codes for you all in case you want to purchase our individual courses or the Whizlabs subscription. So feel free to use these codes that are there on your screens. Okay, Pavan, let's go ahead with the quiz.
Okay, so if you guys are ready, we can go with the quizzes.
Yes, and there is a particular format. Please answer in the Q&A section. First thing, don't use the chat box. Secondly, please, if you're answering to question 1, it should be like question 1A, question 2B, like that. So we know which question you have answered for. Okay. All right. All the best to all of you.
Okay, so the question number 1, which of the following components effectively allows a user to set up auto scaling on EC2 instance for a web application? So, so here you have to select 2 options. So in the below 4 options, these 2 are something which will be helpful in the auto scaling. Option A, launch configuration. Option B, Elastic IP. Option C, AWS Lambda. Option D, auto scaling. So you have to mention 2 options here. You should mention, let's say, for example, answer is A and B. You should answer 1A, B. Okay, I'll be giving you 30 seconds. So you guys have to select 2 options here. Some people have mentioned only 1 option. Okay, so shall we move to the next question? Question number 2. Shall we move? Okay, so which of the following is not a default metric type in auto-scaling group policy? So just remember the word not here. Which one is not a default metric type for a auto-scaling group policy? Okay, so is that average CPU utilization, memory utilization, network in, network out? So which one of these four is not a default metric type in an auto-scaling group policy? So there is only one answer for this. Remember the word not. So I'll be giving you some more time. Okay, so let's move to the next question. Question number 3. So a little bit lengthy question, so try to understand it. I'll give you more time. An e-commerce website is hosted on 2 EC2 instances that is sit behind the elastic load balancer. The response time of the website has slowed dramatically. Analytics team found that one of the EC2 instances failed, leaving one of the instances running. So the one which we have done, what is the best course of action to prevent this from happening in the future? So change the instance size to maximum available to compensate for the failure. Use the CloudWatch to monitor the instances via VPC flow logs. Configure the ELB to perform health checks on EC2 instance and implement the auto scaling. Or D, replicate the existing configuration in several regions for failover. So only one answer for this. I hope you guys were able to answer, because this is what we have done in this workshop. Okay, so I'll be giving you some 10 more seconds for this, because this is a bigger question. Okay, so let's move to the next question. Can we use auto scaling, AWS auto scaling, for scaling AWS Lambda? So can we use this auto scaling to scale AWS Lambda? It is yes or no. It's just a yes or no question. So we have scaled EC2 here. Can we scale Lambda using that? Okay. So let's move to the next question. I hope this is easier, so we'll be able to move forward. So next question. AWS auto scaling can help you optimize the cost of, so here you have to select two options. So AWS auto scaling helps you to optimize the cost of which of the following? So you have to select the two options. It is a bit tricky question. Just think about it before answering. Amazon EC2, Amazon security groups, Amazon elastic load balancers, Amazon block storage. It's a bit a tricky question, as I'm telling you. Think about it. I am only talking about auto scaling, whether it is going to, which are the resources it is going to help optimize. So in these four, you have to select two. Okay, so I think we give one more second. So let's give you 30 more seconds, because it is a tricky question. Okay, fine. I think, yeah, that's it, Sneha. So you can take from here.
Yes, thank you so much, Pavan. And did we enjoy the quiz? Okay, great. Nice to know. So everyone, I think this is the end of our webinar, and we will disclose the winners on our social media. So stay tuned for that. within the next 24 hours, we will disclose, and you will also get an email from us with the video recording of this entire workshop and the PPT slides also. So nothing to worry about that. And do join us for our upcoming webinar, and we will let you know about the details of that. So see you in the next week. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you all. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much.
In case you have some questions left to be answered, you can connect with Pavan. We'll share his details to you, his email address as well as his LinkedIn profile, so you can follow him and get connected. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Bye.